Welcome back. It's the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. I'm Ali Maxwell. It's time for your weekend football fix. Look who I've got with me. Broadcaster Matt Scott is here. And also, we love Mark O'Hare from We Love Betting. And thankfully, he's in the building too. Before we get into our games this week, good news for Matchbook customers. As of, I think, the start of last week, certainly recently, ACCA's now available on site. It's probably the one key thing missing from the Matchbook site, and they've sorted us out. So in front of Gillette Soccer Saturday this weekend, after having listened to this with your own fancies, bundle some up and give Matchbook's new ACCA's a try. If you head to the Matchbook site now, you'll get all the details and work out how to build an ACCA. Let's get into our action, gentlemen. We're going to start at Crystal Palace. Now, this is Crystal Palace against Leicester. Palace, the home side, 3.56. Leicester, the away team, 2.23. And the draw, 3.46. These odds currently, as we record on the Matchbook site, but subject to change across Thursday and Friday, of course. So keep an eye on it. Crystal Palace plus a quarter of a goal on the Asian handicap, available at 2.04. And Leicester minus a quarter of a goal, 1.89. The goal line, well, over 2.5 goals, available at 2.06. And the under at 1.84. Now, I think this is the most intriguing game of the weekend, guys. Mark, I want to start with you, really, and I'd like to know about Crystal Palace, because a glance at the league table shows them 6th in the league with 15 points from 10 games. Clearly a great start for them this season. And they've already played 4 of the big 6 as well. They've only scored 10 goals, though, and they've managed to eke 15 points out of those goals. So my question to you, Crystal Palace, are they a legitimate 6th, 7th place team at the moment?
No, I don't think so. They're an intriguing team. I agree this is probably the most intriguing game from the Premier League this weekend, more from a Leicester perspective. But as we're talking about Palace, this isn't a straightforward game for Leicester, because Palace are rarely easily beaten, displayed their resilience again last weekend, getting that draw at Arsenal from 2 goals down. Wilfried Zaha not been at his best this season, but I think he came to the party a bit more at the Emirates last weekend. Jordan Ayew, who's kind of been laughed off the last couple of seasons, has been scoring goals. There was an element of fortune, of course, about that result to get at the Emirates, but the 2 goals they conceded were set pieces via corners, which is very rare for Palace, very rare for a Roy Hodgson team too. So, you know, plenty of positives from that performance. And I think in their overall this season, they have been largely quite positive in terms of how they've set up. Very difficult to beat. The signing of Gary Cahill has added real assurance, real leadership at the back. Not that they really needed it, but it's just that extra bit of stability there. And that game against Arsenal was only the 3rd time this season they've conceded more than 1 goal. City scored twice when they won 2-0 at Selhurst Park here a fortnight ago. Spurs won 4-0 at the new stadium, but that scoreline was massively flattering for Tottenham. And at home, they've only conceded 3 goals, 2 of which were in that game against City, which is kind of why they're riding so high, because they're living off these marginal matches, really. I wouldn't say they've been massively dominant in any match so far, but I guess that's just what Palace do, really. So, I'm very wary of taking on Leicester here at what seems like quite a small price here, 2.25. I'd actually looked at the start of last season. Now, I know they've been treading across 2 managers in that time, but they've only been this short away from home 3 times since the start of last season, 2 of which were at Cardiff and Huddersfield. And last weekend's clean sheet against Southampton in that runaway win was actually their first away from home under Brendan Rodgers too. So, there are opportunities there to get at Leicester. I do think they're worthy top 6 candidates, but that price doesn't really do it for me, because I think Palace are one of those kind of one of those teams who will always give you a decent fist of things. And
let me bring Matt in here then, because it certainly seems from what you're saying, and I was looking at Leicester and how many goals they've scored this season, and how many goals they've scored after the opposition have gone down to 10 men, which slightly boosts things, doesn't it? That Newcastle game, and of course last Friday at Southampton. Matt, do you think the market's overreacted a little bit to this? I suppose a separate question from Leicester, because I'm not taking anything away from them. We were talking about whether they might be good enough for top 6. Could they be good enough for top 4 potentially?
That all depends on Jamie Vardy and his goals. He's had 20 shots this season, Jamie Vardy, and he has scored 9 goals from those 20 shots. That is an unbelievable strike conversion rate, 45%. I mean, that's unheard of. He has 60% shots on target, which puts him in the top 5. But that ability to actually beat the keeper with his shots as well is astonishing. So it depends on him. I mean, because they don't create that many chances. They're not a particularly creative side. They are a destructive side. And Wilfred Ndidi, they have the best ball recuperator in the entire Premier League. He is the one player that you could say would improve any team in the Premier League. For me, that makes him the best player in the league. He makes 5 tackles a game. He makes 3 ball interceptions a game. Having somebody like that as the beating heart of your midfield is fundamental. It is the platform. They say have a good spine. Well, he's all 20 vertebrae on his own. I mean, he is astonishing. So, and he's even popping up with a couple of goals this season. Looking at Leicester's away record as well, I think that's a fair price. I'd be looking at the lay bet on the home team there. I think that if you're getting a 33% return on 2 outcomes, then that's reasonable, given the quality of the 2 teams. Leicester have been to Chelsea and got a point. They went to Bramall Lane, a tough place to go, as Arsenal discovered, and won 2-1. They lost at Manchester United. There's no great shame in that. They lost at Anfield. Who hasn't? And they've been to Southampton. Let me forget that one. What happened there? A 9-0 win. So they are astonishingly good away from home. And the reason for that is because they've got a man in the midfield who doesn't let you play. If you come and try and attack them, he will nick the ball off you, and they will play it quickly straight to Jamie Vardy, who's still, for me, the best finisher in England. And it gets some results. I think the Palace are going to struggle to win this one, and I think that if you are looking at 3-1, I think you said they were, I'd be opposing them.
So you're opposing Palace at 3.56, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, what does that work out at, Mark? That's about between 30 and 33%, isn't it? It's about 30% return.
I'm not doing.
No, actually, it wouldn't be. No, it'd be a 40. Yeah, between 35 and 40% return.
Okay.
At 3.56. So yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. 3 outcomes, you're picking 2 of them, and you're getting best part of 50% back.
Mark, your feeling was tough to be with Leicester here. Is there an angle that you've selected?
No, not really, Ali. It's a bit of a cop-out, really. But in truth, this is not a match I'd be getting involved in from a betting perspective, and I'd find it hard to recommend anything really. So if I really had to put something up, I'd just be taking the cop-out option of the draw, just shy of 3.5. Leicester, as I say, a little bit too short for my liking. I think they are worthy top 6 candidates, but this is the kind of game I need proof and evidence that they are going to turn up and win these kind of ugly games. Southampton away in the rain when they're down to 10 men after 10 minutes is a completely different kettle of fish. And as you say, 12 of their 25 goals this year have come against 10 men. So this is the yardstick really for me. If they pass this test with flying colours, absolutely, they're a top 6 candidate, but no, I can't recommend a play on them at 2.25.
Exciting stuff. We're going to move on to Villa Park. Aston Villa against Liverpool on Saturday, 3:00. Villa are 8.6 as we record on the Matchbook site, and Liverpool 1.37. The draw 5.5. Aston Villa with a 1.5 goal start on the handicap, available at 1.93, and Liverpool minus 1.5 goals. 2.01. Over 3.25 goals is 2.06, and under 3.25 goals is 1.84. Mark, I'd like to start with you. Villa are 15th after 10 games. It's fair to say, looking at their results, they've picked up points against the teams down the bottom and struggled a little against the teams at the top. Well, that's understatement, really. They have struggled against the teams towards the top. So what chance that Villa get something from Liverpool this weekend? Any betting selections from you?
I've got a selection. I do, it is going to be very, very tough, obviously, but I wouldn't say Villa are going to be overawed by this. I think they're growing into the season. I think they competed very well at the Etihad for 45 minutes, conceded that really sloppy goal from Tyrone Mings, pretty abject effort at clearing the long ball. And obviously, when you go a goal down at the Etihad, teams rarely get a way back into that match. Grealish wasn't given a great chance to get involved. McGinn was standing out again, very unlucky not to score. And if you hear Dean Smith afterwards, he was very frustrated about the sort of sloppy goals they gave away. Very disappointed too, because they went with a game plan which was working in the first half. Show a bit of enterprise on the counter-attack, but just be tough to break down, which is probably something we didn't really associate with Aston Villa as a championship team, but they're certainly proving they're capable of it in the Premier League. And I think they'll adopt a similar attitude here against Liverpool. If you look at the goals they have conceded, 16, 11 of those have come away from home, and 6 of those 16 were conceded by penalties or shots from outside the penalty area, which is quite a high margin, really. I know they've had quite a tame first 5 games at Villa Park, but 3 games away at big 6 teams, Spurs, City and Arsenal. None have really had it massively breezy against Villa, and I think that will give them confidence as well. I think they'll look to what Sheffield United did at Bramall Lane, what Southampton did at St Mary's too against Liverpool, and they are offering a threat going forward, which is probably not being noticed too much, but they're generating the 6th best expected goals from open play figure. Only 3 teams have had more shots from inside the penalty area too. And if they do get on the score sheet, which those stats suggest they're capable of causing Liverpool problems, then I think the plus 1.5 goal Asian handicap comes into play. Liverpool have only won by 2 or more goals once away from home in the Premier League. They've only kept 2 clean sheets in the Premier League and the Champions League this season. Their numbers are down in both attacking and defensive metrics compared to last year. And whilst you can look at raw results, and they've won 17 of 24 away since the start of last season, only 8 of those came by a margin of 2 goals or more. And actually, when they've conceded away from home, they've won by 2 or more goals just twice in that same sample. So if you do think Villa can score and cause Liverpool problems, which I do believe they can, then suddenly that handicap comes into play. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tentative one, but I'd rather be with Villa plus 1.5 than Liverpool to overcome it.
Where do you see this game going, Matt Scott?
Well, I agree with the attacking threat that Villa carry in principle, but we've seen Jack Grealish with the calf injury in recent days, and I think that is a big blow because Conor Hourihane, who is likely to be their replacement, he'll be the man that Dean Smith will be calling upon, you would expect. Does he really carry that attacking threat, that creativity that he does? He hasn't got the partnership with John McGinn that Grealish has. I think he is actually a really key player to the extent I would have expected him to be picked for England in the next call-up. But if he is unfit, he's obviously not going to be playing today. He wouldn't be playing this weekend. And I think that that's a huge blow to Villa in terms of everything they do going forward. Wesley's actually another of those who's a really accurate striker. He's got 12 shots on target out of 19. So he's due more goals than he's got. I don't see his shots being particularly powder puff. So they do carry an attacking threat, definitely. But they've got to get the ball to him in ways that are dangerous. And it's really difficult to do that. You know, Liverpool now, you know, Alisson Becker's going to be coming back. Well, he's back already, but, you know, coming back to full match fitness, full suitability for keeping goal. And although Adrian was a particularly strong understudy, Mohamed Salah had that calf injury. It didn't seem to affect him against Tottenham, where, you know, in adversity, after going a goal down, they still came back and picked up all 3 points. Admittedly, that was in front of a vociferous Anfield crowd, which they're not going to have this time. But I just don't see this Villa side being able to cause any damage if they can't get the ball forward, you know, carrying it. His key passes are so important, Jack Grealish, to the attacking threat that Villa carry. I actually do think, again, that close to a 40% return, you've got a good bet on backing Liverpool for this one.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Arsenal and Wolves then. This one's at the Emirates, another Saturday 3:00 game. I'm gonna sort of preview before I tell you the odds, a bit different. But Matt, since we last spoke, after which Arsenal had lost to Sheffield United, they've given up a 2-goal lead to draw against Palace. They've drawn 5-5 with Liverpool in midweek in the Carabao Cup before losing on penalties. Wolves are sitting in 12th in the Premier League at the moment. Slightly misleading because there's only 1 point between 7th and 14th. But they've won 2, drawn 6 and lost 2. So a lot of draws so far for Wolves this season. And now for the odds. Arsenal are 1.79 on the Matchbook site at the moment. Wolves 4.9, just a shade under 4-1. The draw 3.9. Arsenal minus 0.75 on the handicap, even money. Wolves plus 0.75 at 1.93. Over 2.75 goals, 1.95. and under 2.75 goals, 1.96. When I read those out, Matt, what catches your eye?
Not a lot, really, to be perfectly honest. I don't think there's a huge amount between these two teams. They're both very difficult to predict on the day.
In which case, almost 4-1 Wolves. Does that not?
I think 4-1 is a big price. Arsenal don't tend to lose at home. I mean, they lose a lot fewer than 4 games, one every 4 games, put it that way, at home. So, it's a big price relatively, but in terms of the consistency that Arsenal have, they lose probably at the most 2 or 3 a season, and that note stretches back 5 or certainly 3 or 4 years. So I think the draw is probably the outcome. That's what was the price on that, you said?
The draw is 3.92 as we record.
Yeah, we see 3-1. That's a strong bet as well. No, I mean, I think Arsenal are too short at 1.8. So I think laying Arsenal again is not bad. 80% return. I think when you're able to pick 2 outcomes and get a reasonable return on what you're looking at, then I think that's okay. But in this case, probably the draw, that money, putting a third of what your stake would normally be and picking up all of it back, if all of the normal profit back, then that's probably quite a good bet too. This is an Arsenal side that Granit Xhaka's out. You would expect, after the what happened last week and with him tearing his shirt off and swearing at the fans. I think Wolves are missing Wilfred Bowley a lot, so there could be more goals than you would expect. I'd like to know what the over and under is on that, because I think that Wilfred Bowley is Willy Bowley is absolutely the kingpin, the linchpin of that defence for Wolves. And,
over 2.75 goals, you can get 1.952. That could be quite an interesting outcome.
Even money. Yeah, that's quite good. Well, when you've got 2 centre-backs banging them in and only VAR denying them the third goal, what can you say? I think there will be goals. I think I'd be interested in going even money that the high over 2.5, and interested in the draw as well at 3-1. I think those are probably the value bets out of that, but I'm not strongly committed to anything there.
Let's bring Mark in. Is there anything that you flagged up for us?
Yeah, kind of similar lines really. I think you've just got to oppose Arsenal in this sort of situation. Blowing a 2-goal lead against Palace back in the day would have been an embarrassment really, but that just kind of seems to be the way of the world at the moment at the Emirates. Normally so reliable at home, but they've looked vulnerable in every game against Villa, Burnley, Palace, Bournemouth. You'd probably class Wolves slightly better than all of those teams, so why wouldn't they be able to go and get a result there? Arsenal have conceded at least twice in 3 of those 5 home games, yet to win by 2 or more goals. The Xhaka incident's got plenty of headlines for, quite rightly, the reasons of kind of, where's the leadership, where's the guts in this team. Tierney coming into the team was a positive. You want Bellerin back on the opposite flank as soon as possible. And the injuries excuse now is starting to die out because the squad's looking much more fuller, at least going forward. So I need more evidence before I see this team as united and moving in the right direction. Wolves, I think, have been remarkable this year, considering take out the 2 international breaks and they've played home and away every week this season, and they've only lost 3 times before the midweek defeat in the cup. One of those was very unfortunate away at Everton, one of which was against Chelsea at Molineux, where the scoreline really flattered Chelsea, and away at Braga as well. So they've taken 5 points from 3 games against United, City and Leicester. Their underlying numbers might have dropped off from last season, but Bolly is a big miss, absolutely. But they seem to be really enjoying the fact they're playing twice a week. They got into this rhythm. I know Nuno switched systems last week against Newcastle at half-time, brought the best out of Adama Traore and Matt Doherty as well. But they need to be on it to really cause Arsenal problems. But I don't see them, massively not turning up here at the Emirates. I looked at their record actually since promotion. They've avoided defeat in 5 of 9 away games when they've been priced up at 3-1 or larger. And they've only lost 5 of 15 against the big 6 as well. Bolly is the big blow, absolutely. But there's no way I can touch Arsenal at 1.8 at the moment in this sort of situation.
Okay, let's talk about Bournemouth against Manchester United. Early kickoff on Saturday. Bournemouth 3.32 and Manchester United 2.26, with the draw 3.72 as we record those prices on the Matchbook site. Bournemouth plus a quarter of a goal on the handicap, 1.99, and Manchester United minus a quarter of a goal, 1.94. Over 2.5 goals, 1.84, and the under 2.5, 2.06. Mark, talk me through Bournemouth this season. The Cherries were such a popular podcast team last year that goals was the sort of automatic selection every week. Not as many goals so far in their games this season. Has anything changed? Is goal expectancy a bit lower this season for Bournemouth? Or is it a chance of the chances are coming but they're not finishing them? Has anything changed for the better or for the worse?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've seen it in the last 3 games where they've failed to score, and that's been the issue so far. I know against Watford they had the better chances. They hit the woodwork twice last weekend, but Callum Wilson was given very little service. He's obviously the star man going forward, but if you strip out set pieces, Bournemouth are creating some of the fewest open play chances this season in the Premier League and conceding some of the most. So it's not an ideal balance really. So obviously they're going to struggle. They are actually safely nestled in mid-table, but certainly going forward there are issues to contend with. And I think this is just the kind of game where United will look at and think this match is winnable. And I think United, after everything I've probably said about them this season, they're a value price to win this match. Injuries have been their issue so far this season, but I've been really impressed with them in the last week. Rashford in really good form, Martial returning, Dan James looking lively. That win against Norwich, their 14th in 24 trips to the bottom half since the start of last season. And if you look at the prices, they definitely are value here because Bournemouth, we've talked about it quite a few times now the past couple of years. They just don't turn up against the big six, whether it's the style, whether it's the approach, the system. 37 defeats and 50 against big six teams since promotion. At home, 16 defeats in 25. That's a 64% loss rate, averaging over 2 goals against per game in those matches too. So United have had their issues with creativity, but we've also noticed that their defensive process has been amongst the best in the league. Obviously, compare that with Bournemouth, and United quite rightly should be firm favourites here. They were around 1.8 last week at Norwich, around 2.25, 2.3 this week. If you look at their odds as an away team in the Premier League since the start of last season, they've only been bigger than this price on 10 occasions. 5 of them were against big six teams, 2 against Wolves away, and the others Palace, Everton and West Ham. And if you put that price into perspective, Everton are actually a shorter price away at Bournemouth back in September than United are this weekend, which I can't agree with at all. So I think United are a value price.
That's interesting, Matt. We went so far one way with United. It felt like every week we were saying that we couldn't back them at that price. They've won 3 games in the last week: Partizan, Norwich, and Chelsea in the League Cup. And it does look like an unusually long price for a Manchester United team away from home, 2.26. Are you as titillated by that as Mark O'Hare is?
Not necessarily. I would go the other way and pick up the draw as well. So to lay Bournemouth at the price they're at, I'm very happy to take a small return on a conservative prediction. I think also the opposing the goals as well. 2.5. You said it was even money for under 2.5 goals. I think that's
2.06.
Yeah, that's not bad. Bournemouth aren't conceding goals, and the reason for that is Diego Rico and Philip Billing are really, really good at intercepting the ball. They will take those passes out. They will cut them out before they come towards the goal. Both of them are in the top 5, I think, for among the entire Premier League for the players who win the ball back through interceptions the most. So that is a big platform for Bournemouth. If you can't get crosses in, then which Diego Rico is cutting out, if you can't get the through balls through, which Philip Billing is getting in the way of, then it becomes quite difficult, and that's a reason why Bournemouth have been able to keep 3 clean sheets out of the last 4. Admittedly, Mark's absolutely right; they're not scoring at the other end, so that does look like it is a decent one for us to look at even money for 2.5 goals or fewer. I think you're absolutely right though to say, and I did say this, if you don't mind me reminding people. I did think that Manchester United were not as bad as they were saying. You know, they'd beaten Chelsea 4-0 first game of the season, then they'd suffered 7 injuries, which caused them so many problems. Pogba's still out, so that does stymie them creatively. I do think that he is far better than most people believe. It's so important to making Manchester United tick going forward. So, you know, that all to me speaks to me about the even money bet lower than 2.5 goal being a good one. And I would look to play Bournemouth too. I think, you know, I don't know if you can accumulate those 2 bets. I don't think you can put a lay bet into an ACCA, can you? You know, no, you can't. Okay, right. Sorry, I'm trying to promote the new opportunity for ACCAs there, Ali, but I'm doing it in the wrong way. But still, you know, I do think those 2 bets, even if taken separately, are good ones to look at.
Okay, and Mark, just to go back to you on this game, is your selection just a straight up Manchester United win? If so, that might be the first time ever.
I can tell in that question, Ali, that you're really concerned that I'm backing United to win this match. But yeah, I think 2.25 is a value price. It suggests they've got a 44% chance. And as we've seen with Bournemouth against Big Six teams over the years, this is where they normally crumble. So it is all about the value, really. Are United going to win this match more than 44% of the time? I believe so. So, yeah.
Right, well, the listeners and viewers can make their own mind up. But this week, the Matchbook Weekend Pod, big fans, big backers of Manchester United. And that is something very novel. For the next section, guys, it's the outside bet. It's the long shot. Here, I'm giving you a £10 risk-free bet. Mythical for you guys, but not mythical for the listeners and viewers who haven't signed up to the Matchbook site. That's because if you sign up today, Matchbook are offering a £10 risk-free bet. It's for new customers only. If your first bet loses, they will refund the stake up to a maximum of £10. The bet must be placed within 7 days of sign-ups. And the brand spanking new ACCA bets, sadly, do not qualify for this promotion. You must be over 18. And if you head to offer.matchbook.com, you will get all the information, all the terms and conditions. But for the sake of the pod, you both have £10 to spend. But it has to be on what we would consider an outsider, a long shot. So, Mark, what are you picking for us this weekend? I think you hit the post last weekend, didn't you? You picked Cagliari away from home and they got a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, they played well. Unfortunate that one, really. But Bundesliga for me this weekend, opposing Bayern Munich as they go to Eintracht Frankfurt on Saturday. Frankfurt around 7.5, that's 13-2 in fractions, which is too big for me. Right now, Bayern just aren't the well-oiled machine we've come to expect, really. That 7-2 thrashing of Spurs was a bit of an anomaly this season. Last weekend, they made very heavy work of a 2-1 win over newly promoted Union Berlin. Union are a really poor team, but defensively Bayern are in, I wouldn't say dire straits at all because they're Bayern Munich, but Nicolas Süle is out long term. Lucas Hernandez is injured as well. The back four is Boateng, bringing Jerome Boateng back into the team to partner Benjamin Pavard, Kimmich back at right back, and Alphonso Davies at left back. Thiago playing the holding role. They were definitely bullied in that match, and Eintracht will take great joy watching where Bayern struggled in that match. They'll have their chances here. Bayern were also 6 minutes away from losing in the DFB Pokal on Tuesday night against second division strugglers Bochum. And if you look at Eintracht, despite losing Jovic, Rebic, Aller in the summer, they've replaced them with probably downgrades in Andre Silva, Bastos, and bringing Gonzalo Paciencia back into the team. But they've really impressed as a trio. Philip Kostic is still there too. They've got a great home record under Adi Hütter, scored plenty of goals too. And if you look at the underlying metrics, they're not a million miles away from Bayern. And if you look at Bayern's record, not just under Niko Kovac, but away at the sort of the bigger teams, the better teams in the Bundesliga, they're not always on it really in terms of picking up maximum points or they are vulnerable away at these bigger teams. So I just think Frankfurt have a chance this weekend, a better chance than 7.5.
Up the Eintracht. Matt, Scott, what have you got for us in terms of a long shot this weekend?
Right, well, this will be an ACCA, and it's a very long shot, but it will be, I'm guessing, it will be in the order of 9-1. I would go for the draw, and I'm not entirely comfortable with picking either of these as a draw, but it's a long shot, like we say, and it's a tenner that could turn into £100. I would go for draws between Fortuna Düsseldorf against Köln. And there was one other that I was looking at. Yes, Bayer Leverkusen against Borussia Mönchengladbach. I do like the draws when I can pick them. They don't quite fit my predictor metrics to be draws, but they're close enough if we are shooting for the moon and trying to get something that might pay off real good dividends. So those two, Bayer Leverkusen, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Fortuna Düsseldorf Köln as an ACCA. And presumably you will be able to cash out of your ACCAs as well, in which case take it early if there is a profit to be had.
Draw double with Düsseldorf and Köln and Leverkusen and Gladbach. That leaves us with any other business. This is any thoughts, any picks from the EFL perhaps, or from any of the European leagues, anything that has stood out to you outside of the Premier League games that we've spoken about. Matt, what's caught your eye across this weekend?
I have to say, this is an absolutely horrible week, Ali. There's not really anything. I mean, I like to focus on the Premier League and the Bundesliga. I think that I started getting involved with the La Liga earlier in the season, but it's just too erratic and unpredictable, and I'm very tempted to drop that altogether now. But in terms of both the Bundesliga and the Premier League, there's a lot of well-matched teams, and the prices don't really offer any value anywhere, really. We've been through the ones that we have today and seen potentially one or two little persuasive bets, but not very much. I mean, if I'm going for anything, I don't know what the price is, and perhaps you can help me with this, but I'm looking at Hertha Berlin to win the Berlin derby this weekend. Don't know what the price is on that. If you can help me out, that'd be interesting. But I think that if I have a sure-ish bet that might be
Hertha 2.56 on site at the moment.
Really, that's a really good value bet. That's a really, really good value bet. I would take that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they are much the better team in that one. Okay, derby days always bring odd results, but I think that if Hertha are going to win any game this season, they had a terrible start to the year. They've picked things up a little bit since then. I think that they will be thinking that this is one to put a stamp on. They don't often meet these two teams in Bundesliga, and so it's a good one to go for. I think 2.56. That is true value. Goodness me, that's better than Manchester United at Bournemouth. Let me tell you that.
There we go. Well, we've got your best bet of the weekend sorted there. Mark O'Hare, what's your any other business this weekend?
We're in Turkey this week, Ali. The Super League Saturday afternoon, Trabzonspor taking on Göztepe. Managerless Göztepe. Trabzon around 1.75 for that match. They picked up a last-minute point at Başakşehir on Monday, which is great news really for their manager, Ünal Karaman, who's been often criticised for his team's lack of resilience really on the road. They're very much a home-based team, very strong at home, 15 wins from 21 in the league under his tutelage, scoring at least twice in 16 of those 21, 3 or more goals, 9 times, winning by 2 goals or more on 9 occasions too. They've actually won the last 2 home games 4-1, the latter of which was against Beşiktaş. They're amongst the league leaders for shots on target, open play goals. And if you look at their squad, Jose Sousa and Alexander Sorloth are really impressing. Daniel Sturridge starting to make an impact too, much more from a wide position, but he's still getting game time there now. And it's just a sheer kind of variety of attacking ways. They can play on the counter, they can play direct, threats from set pieces, from the flanks as well. And I just see them overrunning this Göztepe team, who were smashed up 4-1 by Kasim Pasha on Monday night, a result that led to their manager resigning. Might get a reaction out of the players, who knows. One of those players is Cameron Jerome, but probably shows you where they are. But they're pretty terrible away. 14 defeats in 21 since the start of last season. Failed to score in 11 of those as well. Bit of a clash of styles this. Trabzon very attack-minded. Göztepe very much defensively focused. But I think you've got to back the home team in this sort of situation. I was expecting much closer to 1.5 on the home team here. And I think they're very much a good bet to win against a team who are rudderless, out of sorts, out of form, and pretty terrible on the road too.
John Obi Mikel as well involved in Trabzonspor, a born winner. So I'm all on board that. Let me ask you now, just to sum up your best bet of the weekend. You've got 10 seconds each. This is snappy. It's meant to grab the attention of the listener or viewer. So, Matt, your best bet of the weekend.
Well, I've just mentioned it. I think at 2.56, that's an absolute giveaway. Hertha Berlin against Union Berlin. They're visiting a team they don't often play in the Bundesliga. I think it's one that's going to really put fire in the bellies of a Hertha side that haven't really lived up to their expectation this season, but they're a good team, and it will prove to be the case over the course of the season, and in this fixture in particular, I think.
Mark, best bet?
Yeah, Trabzon to beat Göztepe on Saturday afternoon. 15 wins from 21 at home. Scored at least twice in 16 of those games as well. Göztepe without a manager. Thumped 4-1 at home on Monday night. Lost 14 of the last 21 away and failed to score in 11 of those home win for me.
Right, well, that's all for this week. I need to get onto the Matchbook site and double up the Trabzonspor and Hertha double using the new ACCA feature on the Matchbook site. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Thank you for watching. And thank you, Mark and Matt, for your expertise, for your opinions on what is a difficult slate of fixtures across Europe this weekend. Hope you've enjoyed listening, and we will be back again next weekend.